Good morning to all of you and welcome to the session, the Hindu editorial analysis for proficiency in English. As usual, let us start with the snippets. The very first one, Thailand air strikes. But there's one important word after that. Skirmish escalates into major confrontation. There are three words. First one, Thailand air strikes, there's nothing to learn as such. Skirmish. Skirmish means a small fight, usually along the border, and unplanned, unexpected, sudden fight we use, usually between the soldiers. We use this word skirmish. Escalates. You all know the word escalator. When you go to a mall, you go to an airport, you come across escalators. Here, escalate means to increase. Escalates into, turn into, also you can say, major confrontation. Confront someone, take head on. Yes, couple also you can think. Very good, Pavani. Coming to the next one, ethnic strife. There are two words you have to focus on. Ethnic, traditional, ethnic fashion, ethnic tribe, local, indigenous, native, all these words you have to think of. Strife means a conflict. You all know for a few months or years, Manipur was in the limelight. There was a turmoil because of the clashes between two tribal groups, one Meitei, other one Kuki. It talks about Meitei lawmaker visits scarred Kuki villages. Scar. If I get a cut, after some time, it remains there, the mark. Then we say there's a scar on his face. Here, scarred Kuki villages. In a way, they got damaged, they got affected. Tax collection and devolution. UP contributed 4.6% to tax kitty, got 15.8%. Tax collection and devolution. One of the meanings of devolution, it is like assigning the power, the authority. Delegation also you can think of. And UP contributed 4.6% to tax kitty, towards the tax. And here kitty has many meanings. Kitty party. Some people, they meet regularly, they have a party that is known as kitty party. Got 15.8%. Here, citizenship conflict, democracy's paradox. It is about citizenship conflict. And based on that, the writer says, democracy's paradox. You all got the word paradox many a time. Paradox, what is the other word you have to recollect? Ironical. Two things which oppose each other, they exist at the same time. We use the word paradoxical, ironical. What is paradoxical here? State is a creation of people, but state decides who constitute people. State is created by people, but unfortunately, state decides who are people, who are not people of the state. That is irony. That is the paradox. Interesting, but you have to read to understand. Coming to the next one, you all know cricket lovers from today, T20 5-match series between South Africa and India. 5-match series, India, South Africa T20s from today. I'm sure many cricket lovers are eagerly waiting. What is the main headline from today's front page of the Hindu paper? Government opposition spar over Vande Mataram. There's one important word, spar. Spar literal meaning exchange of blows physically, but here exchange of verbal blows means attacking each other verbally in a severe manner. Then we use a word spar, an important word. It has other meanings as well. Coming to other snippets, crypto trades crossed the 15,000 rupees, 51,000 crore in 2024-25. Crypto trades crossed 51,000 crore. And cryptocurrency, an important concept you may get, they have given already as a passage. Coming to the next one, grant recognition to Wangchuk's Institute panel. A panel has recommended, what is the recommendation? Grant what? Recognition to Wangchuk's Institute. Wangchuk, his institute, the panel has recommended It has to be recognized. Grant recognition. Maoist leader 11 more surrender in Chhattisgarh. This has been in the limelight for quite some time. And fake or unreal. Okay, good. Vishnu. Surrender. You have to think of words like yield, give in, surrender, all these. Coming to the pick, chapter on war. Stirring show. Stir has two meanings. When you want to mix something, you stir. Another meaning, to come out with something, to elicit something, to stimulate something. Stir passions means stimulate passion. Personnel of Indian Army's Chetak Corps. Personnel. You should recollect personal, personnel. Personnel means employees of an organization. Here, Army, who work for Indian Army. Chetak Corps, an important word. CORPS. This is the word here to be used over here. CORPSE. What does it mean? Corps. Dead body. And students of local Sainik school ride a tank during an equipment display organized in Bikaner, Rajasthan on Monday. There is one important word, equipment. They have given many a time. Equipment's not correct. We should use it in the same form, equipment, that you have to recollect. Coming to the other one, you all know there was a fire broke out in Goa in a particular club. Caracas also you can say. Goa nightclub owners flee to Thailand after deadly blaze. There are two words jammed here, flee and also deadly blaze. Somu, yes, that's good, I appreciate. Flee is a verb. Flee, fled, fled. What does it mean? To escape, to run away. After that tragic incident, fire accident, the owners, they fled to Thailand after deadly blaze. Deadly means dangerous, and blaze, fire, inferno. All these words you have to. Conflagration, very good. Pavani, wonderful. All the words you have to recollect. Coming to the other snippets we have here, Center blames Indigo for roster lapses, vows action. For roster lapses, roster, the duty is assigned to employees, daily basis, weekly basis. That is known as roster. Lapses, forgetting something. If I forget something, out of 10, I tell 9, 1 I forget. It was a lapse on my part, temporary loss of memory, you can say, forgetting something, and pledges to take action. Next, you have an actor, Malayalam actor, Dilip, acquitted in 2017 actor assault case, 6 found guilty. I've told you guys many a time. And whenever you see the word acquitted, you have to think of innocent. Innocent people are acquitted and guilty people are convicted. All the words you have to recollect, I've given many a time. That's all from the front page of today's Hindu paper. Let us go to today's editorial. Today's editorial, we have 10 plus words, but it is all about disabled people, how they are treated in prisons, a new dimension, new information, startling information, worth reading this editorial. It is like an eye-opener. No one thinks of that. And good that editorial has come up with an article related to the problems being faced in prisons by those who are disabled and by those who belong to backward communities. Interesting and rather disturbing editorial. First, today I have brought the mini mocks. There are 7 questions based on mini mocks. First, we will look at editorial vocabulary, then analysis, then mini mocks. Carceral. Already we have got the word incarceration. What is the meaning of incarceration? It goes with imprisonment. It means what? Imprisonment. Based on that word incarceration, you have carceral, part of speech adjective, relating to prisons or the system of imprisonment. A different word form, incarceration. And here carceral adjective, related to prisons or related to a system of imprisonment. Grave has two different meanings. One meaning you all know, graveyard, but here grave situation means a serious situation. Part of speech adjective, very serious, causing great concern. Dovetailing, an important word we have got recently. Aligning, something aligns with something else, we use the expression dovetailing. Part of speech verb, fitting together smoothly, aligning perfectly with something else. Suo motu, we have got many a time. Usually a particular court looks into the case if someone files a case. But sometimes what happens, the situation demands no one files a case, but the court takes the initiative and proceeds. Then we use this expression. It's a legal term, suo motu. Part of speech, adverb, adjectival phrase, a legal Latin term, meaning on its own motion. When a court takes action without a formal petition or request, without a formal request or petition, the court itself takes action, then we use this. Inmates, those who are imprisoned, people, prisoners, we use the word inmates. Part of speech, noun, individuals who are confined in a prison or correctional institution. Confined means restricted. Those who are in the prison, we use the term inmates. Austerity, it takes the word measures. Whenever there is recession, what is the meaning of recession? Low economic activity. Governments try to cut down on the expenditure. Then we use these austerity measures. Part of speech, noun, strict economy or reduced spending. What it means, reduced spending, severe cutting down of funds and or resources. Next one, punitive, this also takes the word measures. Word combinations are very important when it comes to English. Austerity measures, punitive measures. Punitive goes with a punishment. Part of speech adjective, relating to punishment, harsh or intended to penalize. Dispensing, you all know the word indispensable. Indispensable means what? Essential, very important. Dispensing means to give out. Part of speech verb, giving out, providing, or administering something like services, resources. Dispensing services means what? Giving out services. Disaggregation. You all know the word aggregate together. Disaggregation, separating into categories. Part of speech, noun, separating data into distinct categories or subgroups for clarity and analysis. And separating, common error, SEPE, that is wrong, we should say SEPA. Paper tigers, have you heard of this any time? Paper tigers mean some people look very powerful, but in reality they don't have that power. Then we say he's a paper tiger. Part of speech, noun, idiomatic expression, meaning something that appears powerful or threatening, but is actually ineffective or weak. Oversight has two different meanings. One meaning is positive, the other is negative. Oversight, positive meaning, supervise, monitor of an institution or process. This is a meaning in the editorial. Another meaning, oversight, a mistake due to missing something. While reading, I missed something, then it was oversight. No, someone says, and yes, someone says. Paper tiger, do remember, important idiom. That's all about editorial vocabulary. And today's editorial, it's an eye opener. New information, even for me, new information. And I've been doing the Hindu editorial for so many years. For the first time, the Hindu has come up with this particular topic, a new dimension no one can imagine. Let's see what it is about. Carceral culture. Carceral means related to prisons, and culture. It means what is a culture, how things go in a prison. It's all about what happens in a prison, on prisons and disability related facilities. It's all about how people with disabilities, how people who belong to lower castes, backward communities, how they are treated in prisons. What is the main idea? Prison manuals must mandate disability related facilities. Prison manuals, when you take the word manual, means related to manual work, means what? Using your hands. And first you have to know the word manual, using hands. Then you have to think of the word manuscript. You write a book before it goes to the printer, what is it called? Manuscript. Then, while writing, when it comes to writing, I'm a left hander, there's no word for right handers. What is the word for left handers? Southpaw. And some people can use both the hands. Then, what is the word? Ambidextrous. Ambidextrous. All these words you have to think of. And coming to the word manual, when I say manual work, it is an adjective. But manual can also be a noun. Manual as a noun, it means something like a booklet. Imagine there's a booklet that deals with HR policies, then we say HR manual. Here there's a booklet that deals with the procedures in a prison. Then it is called prison manual. That is the meaning it talks about. Prison manuals must, here prison rules and regulations booklets must, personal obligation of the writer or the editorial, mandate. Mandatory means what? Compulsory. Mandate what? Disability related facilities. That means they're not doing right now. Based on that, the writer says they must. An obligation has been imposed by the editorial, in a way by the writer. The Supreme Court of India's directions last week to provide disability related support in prisons arose from a petition seeking to implement the existing disability law in places of detention, drawing on the experiences of G.N. Sai Baba and Stan Swami. I always tell you people, there should be some stimulus to write an editorial. Otherwise, the newspaper doesn't come up with that particular topic, that particular editorial. What is the stimulus here? It seems based on on the experiences, drawing on the experiences, an important expression, based on the experiences of two persons. Who are those people? G.N. Sai Baba and Stan Swami. The Supreme Court of India's directions last week to provide disability-related support in prisons. Court has directed disability-related support should be there in prisons. That is a direction given by the court. And it arose from a petition. That means someone filed a case about the plight of disabled people. Plight means the condition, the situation. Usually it has a negative connotation. Arose from a petition seeking to implement. There are rules, but they're not implementing. So they wanted implement the existing disability law in places of detention. Detain verb, detention noun. Based on the experiences of G.N. Sai Baba and Stan Swami. Both men had serious physical conditions and asked for allowances that would have allowed them to cope with prison life. The state delayed or refused them these accommodations with grave consequences. These two men are physically challenged or they have certain disabilities. Based on that, they wanted some favors. Allowances here means some favors, keeping their disability in mind. Both men had serious physical conditions and asked for allowances that would have allowed them to cope with prison life. Prison life is different, outside prison life is different. And those with disabilities, they wanted something so that they can have proper life in the prison. But what happened? The state delayed or refused them these accommodations with grave consequences. State has not provided. Based on that, grave consequences means serious consequences. Dovetailing to the constitutional guarantees of equality and life with dignity for prisoners, The Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 obligates governments to ensure support for all services in their control. Here, the legal dimension is being mentioned by the writer. Dovetailing, aligning. And when we talk about someone's rights, we mention the Constitution, we mention the specific act. Here, dovetailing, aligning to the constitutional guarantees of what does the Indian Constitution guarantee? Equality and life with dignity for prisoners, the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. These two obligate. Obligation means duty, responsibility. Here it has been used as a verb. Governments to ensure support for all services in their control. The government or governments to ensure support for all services in their control. Many failures in implementing the act. It's all about implementing. Dovetailing means aligning. I have already said, Chandu. Align means match. Here, many failures in implementing the act are structural. However, and why the word structural has been used, today you all know, if you take Indian Constitution, what is it? Quasi-federal. What does it mean, quasi-federal? Some powers go with the center, some go with the states. Here, prisons, it's a state subject. And the prison manuals are prepared by the center. That means there's a structural issue. This sentence talks about that. Many failures in implementing the act are structural. However, why structural? Prisons are a state subject, whereas the union government shapes policy through a model, prison manual, laws, and advisories. Prison management is a state subject, but who comes up with the manual related to how to manage the prisons? The center does it. That is a structural problem. Recent national guidelines on prisoners with disabilities acknowledged special needs and called for accessible infrastructure and procedures, whereas many state prison manuals still reflect older assumptions about a prisoner who is physically able. There are two categories in prisons. When it comes to prisons, two categories. One, physically able people, the other, physically disabled. And all the rules and regulations, all the manuals the state governments have, they deal with the assumption the prisoners are physically able. But now things have changed. They have prisoners who are physically disabled. Recent national guidelines on prisoners with disabilities acknowledged special needs. Guidelines have acknowledged special needs of people with disabilities and called for. Call for is a phrasal verb. What does it mean? Demand. Demanded accessible infrastructure and procedures, whereas contradictory, a word of that expresses contrast. Whereas state governments or state prison manuals still reflect older assumptions. Assumption means what? You think of something to be true, you may not have the evidence. Assumption about a prisoner who is physically able. But because they think prisoner means physically able, they don't think of the facilities to be provided for prisoners with disabilities. In a separate, please excuse me. I'm sorry about that. It talks about who is physically able. In a separate matter, the court has held that caste-based segregation in jails is unconstitutional, and suo motu said it would monitor discrimination in prisons along caste, gender, and disability lines. This is something very strange. In prisons also, it seems there is caste discrimination, discrimination based on caste, gender, and disability lines. In a separate matter, the court has held that caste-based segregation. What is the meaning of segregation? Separation. in jails is unconstitutional, and suo motu said it would monitor discrimination, prejudice, bias, all persecution, all these you have to think of in prisons along caste, gender, and disability lines. Court is not going to accept, it is going to monitor. Colonial and post-colonial prison rules. When Britishers ruled, that era is called colonial. Once the Britishers left, then we got independence, post-colonial. We should also think of the word imperialism. Colonial and post-colonial prison rules encoded social hierarchies. Before independence, now also, but before independence, it was like caste-based professions. Profession and caste, one and the same. Now things have changed. And there was hierarchy, upper caste, lower caste, hierarchy, social hierarchy. And all these are based on, rules are based on encoded social hierarchies. And this has resulted in something, resulting in a routine assignment of sanitation tasks to Dalit and Adivasi prisoners who are also represented among prisoners relative to their population, and the absence of specific obligations on prison authorities to support prisoners who cannot move or use sanitary facilities without assistance. The sentence talks about in prisons, when it comes to prisons, how they assign the work. They are still assigning work on the basis of social hierarchies. And if you take sanitary work, housekeeping, sanitary, and scavenging, being assigned to Dalits and Adivasis. And the number is more, it seems, compared to their population, the percentage is more. And here you have to think of the word scavenging, scavenger, night soil, euphemism. Have you heard of these words? Ah, very unfair. That is true, Vishnu. What is scavenging? Before the advent of Britishers, we did not have Western toilets, and villages and many places, either in the morning or in the evening, a person would come with a bucket and a broomstick, would clean human excretion. That act of cleaning human excretion, that profession is called scavenging profession. The person is called scavenger. And human excretion, we use the word night soil. Night soil is euphemism. What is euphemism? Saying something harsh in a nice way. Night soil. And it talks about in prison also, it seems that these are assigned to, based on social hierarchies, to Dalit and Adivasi prisoners, and they who are also overrepresented among prisoners relative to their population, and no specific obligations on prison authorities to provide supporting services. The absence of specific obligations on prison authorities to support prisoners who cannot move or use sanitary facilities without assistance. They don't have the powers, it seems, no obligations. The NCRB also records a non trivial number of inmates with mental illness. Inmates means prisoners, and trivial means what? Not important. Silly also you can say. Non trivial number means perhaps substantial number, considerable number of inmates with mental illness. While the court had already censured it in Muruganathan 2025, whose mandates the new order expands nationwide for not disaggregating data by disability, it is reasonable to assume that many prisoners experience the intersection of caste bias and disability together. Based on a particular court case, the case mandates something. The new order expands nationwide and it is spread across the country for not disaggregating data by disability. Disaggregating means separating into specific categories. It is reasonable to assume, because they have not separated what is the likely outcome, it is reasonable to assume that many prisoners experience the intersection of caste bias and disability together. There's an overlap. They experience two things which are unwanted, not acceptable. One is caste bias, the other one is related to disability. Yet, prison rules and oversight mechanisms have repeatedly normalized the idea that the discomfort faced by some bodies is part of the sentence rather than something the state needs to prevent. Yet, talks about contrast. What do the prison rules and oversight mechanisms, what do they focus on? They don't focus on preventing certain things. They take certain words as part of the body and they don't segregate or separate what the state has to do. Prison rules and oversight mechanisms have repeatedly normalized, made something normal. The idea that the discomfort faced by some bodies is part of the sentence rather than something the state needs to prevent. They don't look at it something they have to prevent. That is a problem. Following on from the new order, the center and states need to amend prison manuals to include clear duties about disability related accommodation and screen for disability at admission and support individuals. Based on the directions, based on the order, government, state government, center also, they should amend prison manuals. They have to update prison manuals, and also they should manuals to include clear duties about disability related accommodation. Not only that, screen for disability at admission and support individuals. While admitting, they should screen and they should support those with disabilities. These measures require more funds. Now, why are the state governments not doing that? Perhaps the reason, funds. These measures require more funds, which means the state also needs to confront its carceral austerity, confront face carceral austerity. That means spending on prisons. They are not willing to spend a lot. They are trying to go in for austerity measures, wherein it expands the punitive and security capacity of prisons at the expense of dispensing rights related functions. State government is spending more on security dimension rather than a rights dimension. This sentence talks about that. It expands the punitive, punishment related, punitive and security capacity of prisons at the expense of, at the cost of, means ignoring something, doing something else, dispensing rights related functions. Prison budgets have to be redesigned to treat accessibility and non discrimination as core obligations. Coming to prison budgets, they should focus more on rights, redesigned to treat accessibility, especially for those with disabilities, and non discrimination as core obligations. Discrimination not acceptable. How does it end? Finally, independent inspections and routine publication of disaggregated data on caste and disability inside prison should support public oversight, should support public monitoring. What are the two things? One is publication of disaggregated data on caste and disability inside prisons. All the court's directions will remain paper tigers. If they don't focus on these things, what happens? The court's directions will remain paper tigers. No power. They'll seem to be powerful on paper. In reality, no power. Ineffective. It ends on that note. An important editorial. Now try to answer the questions based on comprehension skill. 5 questions. After that, we have mini mocks based on error location, fillers, word usage, all these. The central premise of the editorial is that the central theme. What is the central theme? Disability related provisions in prisons are adequate? No. Prison manuals must be rewritten to recognize disability as a core rights issue. It's all about the manuals, not A, it is B. They have to rewrite the manuals keeping disability aspect in mind. No, answer is B, not A. The phrase carceral austerity used in the editorial refers to cuts in prison staffing, expanding punitive infrastructure while underfunding rights-based facilities. They are focusing more on security aspect. They are not focusing on a rights aspect, clearly mentioned in the passage. So what is the answer for question number 2? Good. B is the answer. What does the editorial imply about the relationship between caste and disability in prisons? A writer talks about caste and disability, two dimensions. And what does the editorial say about that? Imply they function independently and do not intersect? No. Disability is more prevalent among upper caste prisoners? No. Prisoners may experience overlapping marginalization due to both caste and disability. C is the answer. Good. Question number 4. According to the editorial, which structural issue complicates the implementation of disability related mandates? They are not able to implement disability related mandates. Something is stopping. That is a structural issue. What is that structural issue? Are outdated? No. Prisons fall under states, but the union shapes the main policy framework. This is a structural issue. What is the answer based on that? B. The editorial's tone throughout can best be described as, what is the tone of the editorial? It is about inmates, about people with disabilities, and about discrimination. It cannot be sarcastic and neutral, purely informational. No, the writer has taken a stand. Critical yet reform oriented. Cynical means pessimistic, not correct. So, what is the answer here? Critical yet reform oriented. C is the answer. Not cynical, critical. 5C, no, 5, not D. C is the answer. Critical yet reform oriented. You have a sentence, try to spot the error. No error, you respond, no error. The airline's international flights were estimated to be less than 10% of the cancellations as they ensure higher revenue and stricter passenger compensation norms. You have to read meticulously. Only then you will be able to spot the error. Not that difficult. Here we are talking about airlines, international flights, possession. Then you have to use the apostrophe after the letter airline apostrophe S. Airlines, international flights, possessive case. No. Only one error. Airlines without an apostrophe before the letter S is incorrect. We are talking about possession. In English, we express possession by using an apostrophe and the letter S. There's an error here. Question number 2. Pilot bodies have flagged the waivers as a dilution of safety norms, calling it threatens crew welfare. Okay, sir. Who is that? Sukesh. Okay. Got it, sir. Try to work on the next one. Pilot bodies have marked the waivers as a dilution of safety norms, calling it threatens some problem, calling it a threat to crew welfare, Calling it threatens is grammatically wrong. Calling it a threat to crew welfare. Calling it a threat. Calling it as a threat is not correct. Calling it a threat. There's an error there. Pillar based. The crisis unfolded during the peak season. The airlines, see, airlines, apostrophe S, inability to plan for crew requirements, reiterating, highlighting, restraining, overlooking, culminating. A threat to, that's right. Sukesh and Vishnu, you guys got it right. Try to choose the appropriate word. The crisis unfolded during the peak season. Reiterating means to say many a time, but not relevant here. Restraining, stopping someone, overlooking, ignoring, culminating, resulting in. What is the right word here? Highlighting something. It highlights the airline's inability, but the word form, highlighting the airline's inability to plan for crew requirements. Passenger complaints surged as thousands were left at airports without timely updates. You should understand, the sentence talks about passengers that got stuck at the airports. So, what is a better word when it comes to getting stuck at one place? Relieved? No, not at all. Unified, escorted, compensated. Passenger complaints surged. Sudden increase, we use the word surge. Sudden forward movement, also we use the same word. As thousands were stranded. Stranded means to get stuck. B is the answer. Indigo attributed the cancellations to several reasons, including technology glitches and schedule changes, but critics called these explanations. Context is negative. Critics, they always talk something negative. That is their job. Then you cannot choose a positive word. Credible, positive. Straightforward, positive. Inevitable, unavoidable. Logical, positive. Superficial. Usually people give explanations, silly explanations, lame excuses. Then we say, don't fabricate a story. Don't tell cock and bull stories. Don't tell lame excuses. Superficial. What is the word? C. Here you have a question based on word usage. Choose a sentence where baffling is used correctly. Baffle, confuse, startle, perplex, bewilder, puzzle, all these words. The baffling schedule ensured pilots were fully rested. Baffling schedule, nothing wrong, but fully rested, not correct. The airline's explanation was so baffling that experts found it confusing. Here it has been used properly. Passengers were baffling. Government issued a baffling to improve. Grammatically wrong. Bafflingly agreed with the decision. They objected to the decision. And the next one, choose a sentence where duopoly is used correctly. Means two companies dominating. Monopoly, only one company. Duo means two companies dominating the market. The duopoly caused two airlines to compete without any regulation. India's aviation sector is a duopoly dominated by two major private airlines. This seems right. Passengers, you cannot use refers to, no, not correct. So, what is the answer? B is the answer. That's all for today. I hope you guys have got enriched. Have a nice